Let's knit a thing. Oh, hi. Once you grow sheep, you never grow cheap. You want to start? Okay, I'll start. Oh, hi. I'm Shannon, and this is Soxcetera, and today is October 8th. This is my podcast about knitting, all things knitting and puppy. And you can find me on Ravelry as Shannon Fisher and Instagram as Shannon Mariah, and I Periscope as Shannon. No, I think I'm Soxcetera on Periscope. No, I'm Shannon Fisher on Periscope. I was thinking Snapchat, which I never use, especially now that Instagram has stories. And this is what happens when you're ready, but your hair is not. Sloane is joining us again today. Last time that I recorded, I noticed that I was doing this a lot, and it's because she loves her nose being pet the most. I'm sure most of you thought, she needs a lesson on how to pet a dog. I promise I don't. Would you like to say hello? Introduce yourself? It has been like a month since I last filmed. And I thought it was about time because I have so much to tell you and lots to share. Once again, we might bore Sloane a little bit. Now I have to pet her forever or she will lick me the entire time. See, she loves it. That's what she loves. It's what she loves. It is so gray and rainy out today. Vancouver weather has hit officially. This is our winter. I saw that it snowed today in parts of Alberta. Man, I don't miss that. And so we got rain, which I would take any day over snow, to be honest. It's not so much the snow that I mind. I really actually love the snow. It's the cold, 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 and crummy roads that come with snow that I don't love or miss. You know how some shows with viewers or listeners have like cutesy names for the people who tune in? Someone asked me once, what do you call your viewers? And I didn't have an answer. So what do we call ourselves, guys? The Foxy Soxies? Huh? No? If you think of anything, let me know. And you're all pretty foxy. So we just had Knit City last week, which is Vancouver's annual fiber festival. And it has been going on, this was its 5th year. And I've been in Vancouver for 5 years. So, as you probably guessed, this year was my first year. I either didn't know about it in the first few years that we lived. Listen, we gotta talk about this. No. You can't lick me the whole time. I either didn't know about it or was away when it was happening. So I finally got to go this year. And I have been talking about Knit City on this Periscope, on this podcast since day one. Since January, I've been talking about Knit City, trying to entice all of you to come. So it was kind of wild when it finally arrived, thinking about all the months I've been talking about it. And what a fun 3 days it was. Sloane, listen. I'm gonna have to give her the cold shoulder. You need to lay down or something. She's nudging my arm. No. To talk about this. She's so demanding. So 3 you got a bone. 3 days of yarny fun. So first, on Friday, I hosted a... You're gonna make this very difficult for me, aren't you? On Friday, I hosted a brunch. On the Friday, I hosted a brunch here at my house for any of the podcasters who were in town who wanted to join. And I also invited a few people from my knit group. So there was about 11 of us, I think. And I made a few breakfast casseroles, and it was really beautiful out that day. So I was able to put out all the patio furniture and cushions. And so we just sat on the patio and ate and knit and talked and laughed and got to know each other a little bit, which was a really nice atmosphere because on this Saturday night, there was a podcasters meetup planned, and that was like in the pub below the hotel, the venue hotel. But it was a lot less personal, so I barely got to talk to anyone that night at the podcasters meetup. So I was really thankful to the brunch at my house because I got to talk to all the podcasters and get to know them and just talk about podcasting. I need to not do that. I might have to kick her out. I might have to kick her out. My friend Lisa was here, and she's the person who runs my knit night on Thursday nights. And she was so helpful. She just, because she didn't really know many people, so she was happy to just be in the kitchen fluttering around with me. And I kept just sending it. Everyone else came and offered to help too, but I just kept sending them outside to relax and enjoy themselves. But I thankfully took Lisa's help, and she was so helpful. I was really thankful she was here. So everything went off without a hitch. We ate, and it was yummy. And yeah, like I said, I was really glad that they were all here. And it was so fun to just get to know them. And it was funny because a lot of them I'd never met, but I felt like I knew all of them because I watched them, all of their podcasts. Yeah, and it was just really, really nice to be in their company and nerd out about yarn and talk about all the things that we love that we have in common. So yeah, it was really fun. And then we had a whole day together because then after that, we all climbed in a couple cars and drove down to Sweet Georgia, the Sweet Georgia warehouse, which is not too far from my house. And the reason that happened is because early on in my podcast, I had gone down to the Sweet Georgia warehouse because they have a room full of what they call their seconds, and it's just all of their skeins that are not up to standard for some reason, and they sell them at 3 levels of discounted prices. And so ever since I talked about that on the podcast, I've had so many people get in touch with me and say, I want to go there when I come to Knit City. And so we just organized a group to do that. And so we started our fiber festival a day early by going down there together. And I think everyone walked away with something. I got some yarn that I plan to turn into a cardigan or something. And from Sweet Georgia, we went to a pub not far from the venue hotel, and we had supper together. And then so we just sat at the big long table, and we knit and we talked and we drank and we laughed. And then most of them were going to the opening keynote, who was Isolde Teague. But Elise and I did not have tickets to that. Elise of My Two Tips. So we just went and crashed in Marsha and Scylla of Twitch and Stitch podcast. We went and crashed in their room while they were all at that talk. And actually, Elise and I did a little Periscope, showed some of the stuff we'd gotten that day. And then everyone came back to Marsha and Scylla's room. There was a lot of people in her room. We were only in there very shortly. And then we all went down to the pub and had some more drinks and did some karaoke. I did not karaoke, but I watched and cheered. There's only one karaoke song that I am ever willing to do, and they didn't have it, so I didn't sing. I was going to. If they had that song, I would have. They did not have it. So you can watch Elise's podcast, My Two Tips, to see footage of a couple of podcasters singing. It's pretty good. They were really good singers. So that was fun. On Saturday was when everything officially kicked off, and I got to the marketplace with my friend Lisa, I think around 11, and it was packed. I almost left because it was so stressful. As you come in, you can either go left or right, or I guess you go straight or right. If you want straight, you hit the Sweet George booth, which I had just been to Sweet George's, so I didn't want to go there. And if you went right, you hit the Sweet Fiber booth. And it was like, I went into the booth and then I got trapped. I couldn't move because there was just so many people in there. And I found that really overwhelming. And so luckily, Joanna found Lisa and I, and we sort of like got away from that area and went and did some shopping where it was like less busy. And so that was really great. So a couple highlights from Saturday was I wore my Bradway shawl by Shannon Cook. And Shannon had been in touch with me prior to Knit City after I linked her in my show notes. She actually watched the podcast, or at least part of the podcast, where I talked about my Bradway. And then she got in touch with me and said, please come and find me at Knit City and let's get a picture together in your shawl. And so I just thought that was really kind, but I wasn't really expecting much because I thought she'd probably be just like surrounded by people and not have a lot of time to chat. So I just sort of expected to be like, hey, and have like a quick photo and then that be it. But we walked by her and Jane Richmond's booth and she saw me right away, and I was like, hi. And she's like, hi. And I said, I'm Shannon. And she said, I know. and that took me off guard at first. And then we just chatted for a minute. And then I got out because it was too hot to wear it in there. So I took out my Bradway shawl and put it on. And one of my friends, I can't remember if it was Joanna or Lisa, took a picture with us. And then I was like, and I could just see like people wanted to talk to her. So I said, well, thanks for chatting. Great to see you. And she's like, don't go yet. And I was like, really? You want to talk to me more? So we hung out a little bit. She like signed books and talked to fans in between chatting with us. And she was just so like laid back and easygoing and down to earth. And it's just so nice when people who have kind of become a big deal are just sort of kind of see you and acknowledge you. That just feels really nice. Listen. So that was fun. And we passed her booth a couple more times, and we passed her in the market, and she always was sure to say hello and stopped and chat a couple more times. So yeah, Shannon Cook was a real highlight for me, and I was thankful to get that chance to see her in person. And yeah, it was lovely. And it was especially lovely because one of my friends who I was with had made this beautiful sweater out of yarn by a dyer who was there. And she was so excited to go show the dyer, and the dyer was like pretty unresponsive and kind of made my friend feel a little bit crummy. So that, in contrast with my experience with Shannon Cook, just made me feel even more grateful for how kind and thoughtful she was. So Shannon, if you happen to be watching this, thank you so much. And I think you're pretty spectacular, and I loved meeting you, and you made my very first Knit City really special, and I think you're a pretty fantastic human who makes beautiful, beautiful designs. And Shannon was wearing her, I think it's called Tumble. I'm going to get that wrong. If I got it wrong, I'll put it here. A sweater that she is in her new book with Jane, and is gorgeous. And she told us that she just made it. She just wanted to make something comfy and cozy to wear around the house with her pajamas. And she never intended for it to be a public design, but Jane saw it right away and was like, that's going in the book. And it's a feature of the book, so that's a pretty neat story. And then the other highlight for me was meeting José Paquin, who designed the tank top that I made. And we were at her booth for a really long time because I just went and said hello to her. And then I can't remember what we were talking about, but the people that I was hanging out with, we were talking about designs. I was like, well, maybe you'd like one of José Paquin's. So we went back to José's booth and we tried on all of her samples. And so we were there for a really long time, and she was getting in on it. She was trying to show us stuff and giving us ideas for yarn, and she was just really lovely. And then I don't know if it's her, anyways, I don't know if it's her like business partner or her partner or her husband or whoever it was. There was a man there with her, and she was like, do you remember the video I showed you of the girl who was dancing in all of the things she had just knit? And he was like, oh yeah. And José's like, that's her. I don't know what the look on his face was. There was something in there. So it made me laugh. Like, yeah, that's me. I am the most ridiculous. But José was delighted by it, so that's all I cared about. And she was equally as gracious as Shannon, and just really fun to hang out with and talk to, and so happy that we were there trying on all her things. And my friend Tassia, who was there, looked good in everything that she tried on, and so José loved that too. And yeah, it was a really fun time to meet both of them. So again, José, if you're watching this, thanks for just being so lovely and such a good host, and for making such beautiful designs. By the end of that day, we were just so fried. But there was a podcaster meetup to go to that I really wanted to go to, so we went over there. And like I said, we didn't really get to talk to anyone, like, other than who we were with. No one was really like flitting about talking. I think we were all just so tired, and we were also hungry, and the pub was completely understaffed. So we weren't getting food, we weren't getting drinks, and a lot of people were leaving because of it. So since, again, Elise and Joanna and I were not going to the talk that was happening that night with Stephanie McPhee, we waited it out. And so we stayed until the pub was pretty much empty, and we had ordered fries that we were still waiting for, and they never came. So Elise went back up and got her money back, and then we decided to go for tacos, and I texted Lisa and said, you should come join us. So the four of us went to Taco Fino just down the street and had the most delicious tacos. Probably partly because we were starving, but also because they just are so delicious. tacos and nachos, and we shared a big thing of sangria, and we had the best time. It was so much fun. And it was just such a nice, soul-filling way to finish off that really great day. Because it was a time that was just so full of laughter and love and friendship. And I think at one point I like burst out and I was like, I love all of you so much. I was just feeling so much gratitude for the friendship that I've found here. And then Sunday was just more shopping. That day I went over to the market earlier with Joanna, and I really didn't buy much that day. I bought one 50-gram skein of yarn. On the Saturdays when I did the bulk of my shopping, I think I got enough to make 3 sweaters. So I bought a lot of yarn. I was trying to resist sock yarn because I sort of went through my stash beforehand and saw that I have a lot of sock yarn. So I was mostly focusing on some of the garments that I want to make. And then on Sunday, I kept going back to the Yarn Ink booth and talking myself out of buying a sweater's worth of this beautiful colorway she had there. And I managed to talk myself out of it. And then I also talked myself out of this beautiful colorway at the Black Cat booth called Sedona, which, funnily enough, completely without me and without any conversation between us, Elise ended up buying. So I thought that was funny, and it really is a beautiful skein. And every time I see Elise's, I'm like, why didn't I get it? But I did get one 50-gram skein from the Urban Yarns booth, and they were featuring yarn by the dyer Richard DeVries, and he used to dye for Koigu, I believe. So his yarn is very similar to Koigu. So I got some of that. So I'm going to make up a pair of shorty socks with his 50-gram skein. But the fun thing about, and this is completely not, well, it's kind of related to knitseeds. So that Sedona colorway that I was telling you about that I loved so much, I got a very wonderful surprise package in the mail yesterday, and I wasn't expecting it at all. I had no idea it was coming. And I won't show it to all of it to you, but I will show you the one thing that had me the most excited about this beautiful package. And that's this. Sue and Chelsea sent me a package with some of their new yarn, and that's Sue and Chelsea of Legacy Knits podcast, and they're now dyeing yarn and selling it on Etsy, and their shop is called Legacy Fiber Arts. And this is on their Cozy Toes base, so it's a MCN 4-ply, and it's called Sarah Sanderson, and it looks a lot like that Sedona colorway that I talked myself out of buying. So I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't buy it for a reason. Isn't this so gorgeous? So gorgeous. Yes, you think it's pretty too? Do you like it? What's your favorite colors? So thank you so much, Chelsea and Sue. That was a really lovely, wonderful, generous surprise. And I don't think I have any MCN. I don't think I have any sock yarn with cashmere in it. And I was feeling a lot of MCN at Knit City and thinking, I really need to get myself some MCN. Ta-da! Just gonna look at my show notes. Just before we move into the next section, I just wanted to talk about last time, on my last episode, episode 25, I talked a little bit about how my Knit Night group got its name, which was because my friend Lisa named it Froggers Anonymous because she tends to rip back a lot, because she's very particular. She's very detailed. She cares a lot about her work, and does a really fantastic job with everything that she makes. And so I had jokingly said, this is just a recap for those of you who are maybe brand new to my podcast. I had jokingly said, if I had named our group, it would not be Froggers Anonymous. It would be called Fuck It, It's Fine. And so many of you, I heard from so many of you about how much that resonated with you and how funny you thought it was and how you wanted to start a hashtag of that. And so what I thought would be fun is if I opened up a thread in the Rav group called Fuck It, It's Fine, and we all shared either pictures or stories of knits that we've done that we've just left mistakes in because we either didn't care to go back or we just thought it was fine or we couldn't be bothered, whatever reason. All the many reasons why you just sort of ignore it. I typically call it my personality knit right into the thing. That's why I leave it. That's why I say I leave it, but really it's just because I don't want to frog back. And obviously, if you want to share it also on Instagram with the hashtag, you're more than welcome to. I just know that some of you wouldn't be as comfortable with that as maybe, you know, it's not exactly like our group is private, but you know, the more private, it's not just everywhere. It's not as everywhere as Instagram is. Maybe your family who follows you on Instagram wouldn't quite understand what you were doing. I'm really having trouble talking today. It would be nice if you pulled your weight and maybe introduced some of the segments. I will open up the Fuck It, It's Fine thread, and I would love to see all of your stories and pictures and loud and proud, I left it because I didn't want to frog it stories. And that takes us to Shouty Shan, and Shouty Shan is a segment where I typically talk about things I'm learning about being a better human that have to do typically with social justice and mental health issues. Today's going to be a little bit different because I don't actually have anything to talk about other than I wanted to talk a little bit about why I do that segment, because a couple things happened at Knit City that sort of made me realize that some of you, when I do that section, it makes you feel bad about yourself because you think you're not as good as me. And that is like not the message I want to send at all. Because first of all, I am just as messy and broken and confused and lost as anyone else. I have to work really hard at being a kind, thoughtful person. I believe I talked a little bit about that in one of my earlier episodes shortly after the whole acrylic debacle happened. I talked about how I have to work really hard at being a better person. It doesn't come naturally to me. I have really catty, jealous, insecure thoughts that make me think things I feel very ashamed of about people. So to me, the Shouty Shan section is about me saying, hey, here's a thing that I'm learning that I didn't know before. And when I learned it, it empowered me to be in the world in a better way, to be in the world in a way that I know that I can have that tool to use to be better to the people around me, to be kinder, to be more gracious, more compassionate. And I'm so excited about this thing that I learned because I feel so empowered by it that I want to share it with you. It's not me saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe you guys do this thing. You gotta stop doing it. So I would like to apologize if that is the message that I have given you because it is completely unintentional. all of the things that I talk about, I didn't know at one point. I had to learn. And like I said, it's just about me being so changed by something in such a positive way that I really want to share it with you. So that's what Shouty Shan is about. I'm not better than anyone. I'm not more kind or more compassionate. So yeah, there was just a couple like side comments that were said at Knit City, not maliciously, but just sort of people being self-depreciating. And you know, Shannon would never do that, or Shannon doesn't do that. And I was like, what are you talking about? I am totally guilty of doing those things. I'm very capable of being just as gossipy and horrible as the next person. Shouty Shan isn't about making you feel bad about yourself because I'm better. Shouty Shan is about empowering both of us, all of us, to do better. Because I'm excited that people have been patient and gracious enough with me, or generous enough with their knowledge to share it in a way that I'm able to learn about it and then share it with you. So I think all of you are wonderful and fantastic and capable of learning and growing and doing better. And I know that because I have changed and grown so much through the work of other people, simply because I've been willing to listen and do some reflecting and dig deep and do better. And I think we can do that together. And that really excites me. The thought of walking through the world as someone who is not hurting other people makes me feel really good about being human. So hopefully that helps you sort of frame that segment of my podcast in a different way, in a way that helps you approach it with ears from someone who's learning to someone else who's wanting to learn, instead of someone who's talking down to you because you should already know this thing. That's just not the case at all. Yay for learning! So, oh my goodness, I've already been talking for 40 minutes and we haven't even got to the knitting goods. I have 2 finished objects, a previous finished object I want to talk about, and then 2 works in progress. So my first finished object are the Climb socks by Jane Richmond. And as you can see, I've worn and washed these a couple times and the pink has bled into the white, but that's okay. So these are inspired by the Climb socks, but they're actually completely different because I added a little pink stripe down the foot part. I did a completely different heel, and then obviously I used pink instead of red. But they're very much inspired by Jane Richmond's pattern. I was asked to test knit this new heel, and this heel is by Shauna Wood of the Shauna Stitches podcast, and she calls this the Kiss the Partridge heel because she was inspired by the short row heel of Fish Lips Kiss heel, and the Eye of the Partridge. So she sort of combined those two and came up with this, which is called Kiss the Partridge. And so she asked me to test knit it and let her know what I thought. And I really love it. And what I love about it, there's lots that I love about it. I love its simplicity. It was a very quick, simple heel. I love how it looks. I think Kiss the Partridge I've done the Eye of the Partridge on a few of my other socks. And I really love how it looks. Just sort of like this crisscrossy look. It's really quite pretty. And then I also love the extra padding it gives. And the point of the slip stitch heel which is what this is. It's just alternating the slip stitch. The point of it is to give more padding so that you don't get holes in your socks as quickly on those sort of hot spot areas on your foot. And so a typical heel flap or a typical slip stitch heel doesn't carry on to the bottom of your foot, but this one does. And I like that because, one, it gives you a little extra padding, and two, it means that you're not going to get holes in the bottom part of your foot where your heel hits as quickly. So both here and here. So I really like that. It was a very simple pattern to follow, and I really love how the finished heel looks. So if you're interested in that, you can look that up. I will link to it in the show notes, which you can find in the Soxcetera Ravelry group. And I can't remember how much Shauna is selling the pattern for, but I don't think it's very expensive at all. And yeah, it's great. So give it a try. The other finished object I have are these socks, which I'm calling my spicy vanilla socks. So these are kind of funny because I was originally hoping to knit the Rose City Rollers. The Rose City Rollers are cuff down, and I've never made cuff down socks. And so, as I've mentioned before, I like to do all my socks 2 at a time because I definitely know I would never knit that second sock. So I tried, and I cast on both cuffs, and my yarn got so tangled and messy that I got so discouraged that I sort of put the socks aside in a timeout and gave up. And then I decided to pick them up, which I'll talk about why I decided to pick them up later. So I just like ripped them out and started a toe-up sock, and I thought these are just going to be vanilla socks. I'm not going to do the Rose City Rollers. I'll do the Rose City Rollers another time. So I just started doing toe-up socks 2 at a time. And then I sort of got to here and was like, oh, maybe I'll add like a little something. And so I just did some slip stitches with a contrasting color, which was some white yarn I had. And then I did a band of that white yarn, and then I did some more slip stitches, and then I just kept knitting. And then I was thinking, oh, I don't know what heel I want to use. And so then my friend Mars told me about Nathan from Nathan Taylor, the Sockmaticians pattern for 2 at a time toe-ups, and it had the slip stitch heel with a gusset and heel flap. And so I went and I bought that, and I did that, and I love it. And I actually did, his just calls for a slip stitch heel, but I did a slip stitch heel on one and a eye of partridge on the other, because why not? So like I said, slip stitch is where you just, that's this one, you do it all the same, and here you alternate. So you can't really tell with this variegated yarn. And then I was just using 150-gram ball to knit both of these socks. And I was thinking, well, I'll go get the other 50-gram ball and I'll wind it and I'll make taller socks this time. Or else I'll just go find a contrasting color and do the cuff in a contrasting color. And then I sort of just got tired of the socks and thought, I'm just going to finish with this and let them roll down. And so they look just like, well, except for this part, they look just like Rose City Rollers. So it's funny that they started out that way. I thought, forget it, I'm not doing those now. And then I ended up doing them anyway. Now, the problem with these is that I did a lace bind off, which is supposed to be stretchy, and it is a bit stretchy, but it's not quite stretchy enough. So I have to work really hard to get these over my heel and onto my foot. I can do it, but it takes about 5 minutes, which is not ideal when you just want to put on a pair of socks. So I'm not totally sure what to do about that. I'm not sure if I need to rip back and do a different bind off, if I need to just say, fuck it, it's fine, and take 10 minutes to put my socks on every time I don't want to wear these. If I need to maybe get some sock blockers and see if blocking them out will make it stretchy enough to get over my foot. No idea. But that's my story of my spicy vanilla, which actually turned into Rose City rollers. And the reason I call them spicy vanilla is because they were just intended to be vanilla socks, and then I spiced them up with this little bit here. So anyways, I love them. They're beautiful to look at. They're just not highly functional. So then this is a finished object, but I finished it before and I've already shown this to you, but I sort of did a bit of adjustment on it. A bit of an adjustment on it that I wanted to talk about. So this is my campside cardie, which I love and fits. I've knitted size too big, but it still fits and I still love it. But the problem is that it always falls off my shoulders. I just walk like, you know, around the house a little bit or whatever, and within seconds it's like falling off. So that was really annoying, and I had heard of something you could do to help that, which was do a crochet chain along the neckline, along the shoulder line. And so I don't know how to crochet, and I didn't really feel like learning it just to do that. And my friend Lisa is a really skilled crocheter. So I asked her if she'd be willing to do that, and she did, and it took her 2 seconds. We did it over Periscope so that everyone could see. It took her 2 seconds, and she was sort of learning as she went what to do. We had looked up something online so that she knew where she needed to do it into. And so what she did was she just went into on the inside of the sweater, so you can see I haven't woven in the ends yet. So from the outside shoulder seam, where is it? This outside shoulder seam to this outside shoulder seam, she just went along the neckline and did a crochet chain or a slip stitch chain. She said same thing. And the first time she did it, it was a little bit wonky because she like went into one row one time and the bottom row and up, and it was kind of a zigzaggy line. She wasn't very happy with it, and it puckered quite a bit because she was using a pretty small needle, but it was very, very stiff and stable. So she did it again, but this time instead of going into every stitch, she went into every other stitch, and it looked nicer, but it was stretchy, so it wasn't as stable. The point is to like make it so it's not stretchy, so it really stays on my shoulders. So she had to go, so I just wore it around like that, and it was still just immediately slipping off my shoulders. So she did it again a third time, and this time she went in with the same small hook that she did the first time, and she did it every stitch again. And so I don't know if you can tell, but it is a tiny bit puckered, and the collar kind of stands up at the back because it's like stiffer. So it doesn't lay flat, but it stays on my shoulders way better. Like I walked around in it all day yesterday and it didn't fall off at all. So I'm kind of willing to put up with the puckering because I think the alternative is, I know I could sew like a band of ribbon in along the back to give it some stability. So I could either do that or I could frog it and do the right size. But I also think what would help is short rows to make the neck longer. But like this is done and it works. So I think I'm just gonna leave it and love it. And I couldn't find any tutorial videos. So I asked Lisa if she'd be willing to do a tutorial video with me sometime. So watch for that. We're gonna do that. So that takes us to works in progress. And guys, do you remember my Fine and Dandies? Yes, of course you do, because I talked about them so many times. So the Fine and Dandy pattern by Jessica, who is lovely and a great designer, designed this brilliant, beautiful, intricate pattern called the Fine and Dandy socks. And there was a cowl to go with it, and so many people did it and they loved it. And I didn't. It's not like I didn't love the pattern. The pattern's beautiful, but I didn't love doing it. I didn't love making it. I loved how they were looking, but I didn't want to keep doing it. So I was discouraged, and I was going to maybe frog back those socks. I know. Gasp. But I was going to say, fuck it, it's fine, and frog them. I was going to combine all the things, all those philosophies. What I decided is that I did too much work that I don't want to rip out. So I thought, I'm just going to distract everyone from seeing that I didn't finish the pattern with some wackadoo color. So that's what I did. I added some stripes. I did the Sockmatician's heel. Well, I guess it's not his heel. It's a slip stitch heel, but he gives you all the maths to do it. And then I couldn't decide what color heel I wanted to do, so I did purple on one and blue on another. This was just some strolled sock yarn from Knit Picks that I had. And then I carried on with this. It's called Snapdragon from Sweet Georgia. Carried on with the Snapdragon color. And then I just started to do some more green striping. And then I don't think I'm going to do another pink stripe because I don't think I have any more of that yarn. It was just scrap yarn. I think I'm just going to end with cuffs in these two colors. And we will call it a day, which means I'm not a Fine and Dandy dropout. I'm just a Fine and Dandy frazzle dazzle. So I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased that I didn't have to rip those out or abandon them forever or whatever. So yeah, I came up with a solution. So those, hopefully I'll finish those tonight at my virtual knit night. Yay! The other work in progress. I'm gonna have to go get it because I forgot it. BRB. Okay, took out my rollers. I'm looking a little Jackie Kennedy now. It's a little bit too, I don't know, 1950s housewife for me. Hopefully it'll calm down a little. Problem is my hair has no body. I have a lot of hair, but it's very, very, very fine. So it's just, sometimes I put curlers in to give it a little body, but then it always just looks a little bit too poofy. Sloane agrees. The other thing I'm working on very, very, very slowly is the Trillium cardigan by Alicia Wong. Alicia Wong? Andrea Wong? I don't know. And it's bottom up, so it starts with this twisted, broken rib. And it's taking me forever. Each row is taking me 45 minutes to an hour. So it's extremely slow. And a couple weekends ago, 5 of us went out to our friend Krista's cabin in Point Roberts, which is this like secluded place that's over the border. But in order to, it's the only part of the United States right there. In order to get to any other part of the United States, you'd have to go back into Canada and back over the United States border. So it's this really wackadoo place. But she has this cute little cabin right on the waterfront. And so 5 of us went there for 2 nights. And we knit and hung out all weekend. It was really fun. And I was knitting on this very slowly, and then realized that I'd added a yarn over in one of these last sections. And so I shifted the whole thing without noticing, and it was a mess. And I was like, oh my gosh, these are taking me so long. These rows are taking me so long. And so I had to decide if I was going to either rip out or try to fix every column. So my friend Tassia was there. And so we calculated how many rows at that point I'd knit, how long each one was taking me. We figured it'd take about 8 hours for me to start over and get back to the same point. And so Tassie was like, let me fix a few columns and see how long it takes, and then we'll calculate the difference. And so it was like a difference of 4 hours. So Tassie was like, if you're okay with me doing that, I'll do it for you. I was like, you're going to spend 4 hours on my project? That's crazy. But she had just finished her sweater and she hadn't brought another project. So she was sort of happy to have something to keep her busy. And she's a real problem solver. So she likes doing stuff like that. So I was like, okay. So that's when I had these socks, and I had just the 2 cuffs started. So while she was doing that, that's when I like ripped back these socks and decided to just turn them into 2 toe-up vanilla socks. So I knit on those while Tassia worked away on this, and she fixed it for me. And I think since she fixed it, and then she continued knitting. She like did, I don't know, 3 or 4 more rows for me. So since, I think I've only done 2 or 3 more rows, and it calls for 4 inches of this ribbing. And I don't know, I would guess that I'm maybe at 2.5 inches. So I feel this is worsted weight yarn, and I'm doing it on 5mm needles, I think. 4mm. 4mm needles. So once I start, and I actually move up a needle size once I'm done the ribbing. So when I'm done the ribbing, it's going to fly. But until I'm done the ribbing, I am just slowly plugging away at it. And I've been avoiding it by knitting on socks, which means it's not getting done. It's so slow because I'm avoiding it. But in my head, so I cast this on immediately after I finished the campsite cardigan. And thought, I'm going to have another sweater done for Knit City. I'm hilarious. No. But I really do feel like once I get past this ribbing, it's going to fly. So I just need to get past the ribbing. It's really a beautiful cardigan, and it's going to be super worth the time I put into it. I just need to do it. Twisted, broken rib. Not for the faint of heart. Michelle Wong. That's who this pattern is by. Michelle, not Alicia. Michelle Wong. So that's it for the knitting. I just wanted to share another cow that's happening. I want to give a little bit of pod love. And I want to share the winners of the Canadian cow. So let's do that. So the Share Cow is a cow with Lindsay of the Fiber Seed Yarn Company and the knitwear designer Jessica Anderson. And from October 15th to November 19th, they'll be knitting a shawl designed by Jessica Anderson called Holding Space. And you can get the special colorway designed by Lindsay called Angel Kiss. 75% of pattern sales and a portion of Lindsay's yarn sales, I'm not sure what the percentage is, will go to the charity. And the charity is Share. And Share's mission is to serve those whose lives are touched by the tragic death of a baby through pregnancy loss, stillbirth, or in the first few months of life. They strive to set a standard of personalized perinatal bereavement care through a lifetime of support, hope, and healing, one family at a time. So that CAL is happening, and Lindsay has a Periscope, and I sometimes go on her Periscope, and she was talking about it, and I thought, I bet a lot of you would like to know about this and knit for a great cause, so I thought I would let you know. And I will share a link to more information in the show notes if you want to buy the yarn. I'm not sure if you need to knit the shawl with the Angel Kiss yarn or if you can knit it with any yarn, but I'm pretty sure that that information is in their group. So I will post a link to where you can get all of that information in the soxcetera show notes. So I thought I'd let you know about that in case anyone's interested. And then that takes us to Pod Love. And I have 3 podcasts that have sort of become new to me that I really love, all 3 of them. And I thought I would share them with you guys. So the first one I want to talk about is Pause for Stitches. And that is a podcast with Candy and sometimes her husband, Jamie. And they live in the mountains called Adirondacks. Anyways, it's a mountain range in upstate New York. And so she podcasts from their beautiful log cabin. So she always has this great, beautiful background. And they have 2 big, great dogs. And she's really, Candy's just really down to earth and fun. And I can tell that she's just really herself on her podcast. I feel like the person that we hang out with when she podcasts is the person that we would get if we were to go for coffee with Candy. And she's easy to listen to. And her husband, when her husband shows up, he's just this really lovable guy because he's super into the stuff that she's talking about. You can tell that he's just really supportive and tuned into her. And, I guess when it comes to knitting stuff, I feel like our husbands can be, or our partners can be supportive, but not necessarily really that tuned in, which they don't, that's not a necessity, but it's sort of a bonus when they are. And I feel like Jamie really is. So I think it's really sweet to watch that interaction between the 2 of them. And on her most recent episode, Candy had talked about getting one of my bags that she ordered in the mail, one of my knitting backpacks. And she had been talking to me about them for a while because her and Jamie do hikes a lot. And she wanted to be able to take along her knitting. So she thought my knitting backpacks would be perfect. So she ordered one in my last update. And she did this really fun backpack dance. And she called it Baby's Got Back Pack. Which is just delightful. As you guys know, I'm super willing to make a complete fool of myself. And so Melissa from Spicy Homework Maker was saying to me, because she had seen Candy's little backpack dance, she's like, how do you get people to make a fool of themselves for you? And I'm like, because I don't, if you're new, I do something on Instagram called the Silly Sing Gang too, where people just put on headphones and they can't hear themselves sing, and they're supposed to sing horribly at the top of their lungs to their favorite song. And I think people are willing to make a fool of themselves for me because they can see that I'm also willing to do it. So they're in good company. So I loved Candy right away. I had seen her podcast before she did that dance, but when she did that dance, I was like, yeah, you get me. So check her out if you haven't. Pause for Stitches, and that's pause as in dog, animal pause, and then the number 4 stitches. And then the second podcast I'd like to talk about is Brownberry Chronicles, and that's by my brand new friend Marceline, who goes by Mars to most of us. And you probably know about her because everyone I've tried to tell about her, who I thought was going to delight them with this new podcast they'd never heard of, they're like, oh yeah, I watch her. I love her. Yeah, how do you not know about her? I don't know about her because you didn't tell me about her. So I'm not totally sure how Mars and I ended up crossing paths. I think she ended up on my Periscope somehow. I'm not sure how, but she did. And she was very patient with me as I tried to learn her name. And then I have been hosting some virtual knit nights, and she came to one of those, and she's so lovely and wonderful. She is a Canadian, hello bonus points, who lives in Florida with her family, and she has 2 girls who sometimes show up on her podcast, and she homeschools them. And they are a delight. I would really like to hang out with her 2 girls. They are just, they're a delight. There's just no other word for it. They're a delight. And I hope I get to meet all 3 of them someday. And then the last podcast I'd like to tell you about is Knit Knacker Natters with Fatima. And Fatima is originally from the UK, and she now lives in Singapore. It's spelled Singapore. But I always hear everyone say Singapore. But when I went to spell it out, and then I had to look it up, it's Singapore. But that doesn't sound right. Singapore. Anyways, she has a really lovely podcast. She's so great to listen to. She just has this like really calming presence. And she's a doctor, which is so cool. And she knits some beautiful things, and she's just really supportive of the community. She's very kind. She was really, really vulnerable in her last podcast at the end, talking about losing her best friend. And so she shows up on my Periscopes a lot, and she bought one of my bags, which was really thrilling to have, to think my bag is going across the world. So please check out her podcast if you have a chance, if you're in the market for another podcast, because you won't be sorry. Fatima is just really lovely and, again, big-hearted. I tend to be attracted to the big-hearted ones, and all 3 that I just mentioned are definitely big-hearted. So Candy and Mars and Fatima, thank you for producing such wonderful content and for being just a light in this community. I think you're all really great. And I just wanted to quickly mention that on my last podcast, which was a month ago, I think, I sent out a call for people to send minis to a viewer who was sort of going through a rough time. And so many of you answered that call, and Nicole has just been getting parcel after parcel after parcel, and she's overwhelmed and giddy and delighted, and I think feels very, very loved by your response to that. So thank you so much for showing up for her, for giving when you can give. It's really cool and wonderful to be part of a community that is so generous. So yeah, on behalf of Nicole, thank you, everyone. And on behalf of myself, thank you, because I didn't really know what the response was going to be when I said, "Hey, let's do this thing together." And you guys definitely came through. So thank you for that. So we'll just end today with me announcing the Canadian Cal winners, which closed on September 30th. Man, that group is full of beautiful, beautiful finished objects. But if you're just here for the bulk of it and you're going to take off now because you didn't participate in the Cal, thank you so much for coming. Thanks if you're returning, and thanks if you are checking me out for the first time. I'm just grateful for all of you who come and watch, and giving me your time every week or every 4 weeks. I'm really grateful. Steve and I are about to hit the road. Steve and Emma and the dogs and I are about to hit the road on October 11th. We're going to be driving down the coast for 6 weeks. So I will be podcasting from the road, hopefully. I'm hoping to be a little bit more regular. I think I have sort of naturally segued into a every 2 weeks podcast. But I'm hoping to be a little more regular about it. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, if you just came for that, bye and thank you. Okay, Canadian Cal participants. I'm so excited. I have 5 winners to announce. So I came up with a couple more prizes since I told you last time. I think there was only 2 prizes last time I podcast. So now there are 5 actually. So I've got 5 winners. So our first winner is going to win a pattern of their choice by Cassandra Rizzardi, who is Riza Knits on Instagram. And that is entry number 125, which is Ramona Firehorse on Rav. And she is my new friend from Toronto. She's a friend of Eric's too, from Sticks Plus Twine, and it was so fun to pull her name. She had a few entries in the thread, and I was actually just scrolling past her entry as I was sort of looking for the numbers, and I was like, oh, it'd be so fun if she won. And then I pulled her number, so that was a real delight. So congrats, Ramona. Go check out Cassandra Rizzardi's patterns and let me know which one you would like, and I will get you in touch with her so you can get one of her patterns. Actually, no, you don't need to get in touch with her because I will be buying that pattern for you. So yay. And then the next winner is going to win this necklace by my friend Lorelei Erto, who sells her jewelry online. This beautiful flower pendant, and I'm not wearing mine today, but I have one that's similar that has an owl on it. I should have put that on. And I love it. So I think you're really going to love this. And the winner of this is number 37, and that is Della3 on Rav, and her name is Della, and she's Canadian. So congratulations, Della. So you need to get in touch with me. Send me your your address, your mailing address on either Instagram or Ravelry so I can get that in the mail to you. I'm hoping to get that in the mail before we leave on Tuesday so that I can pay, so it doesn't have to cross the border. Because I will bring it if I need to, but then I will be shipping it from the States. So yeah, get in touch with me. And then the next 2 prizes are from Shannon Cook. When I finished my Bradway shawl and linked to Shannon, she saw my podcast about it. She was like, hey, if you ever need prizes, let me know. I'd be happy to give some. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, actually, I have a Cal coming up. So I said, can I give one of my winners a prize, one of your patterns of their choice? And she's like, how about you pick 2 winners and they get to pick 2 patterns each? Amazing. So the winners of 2 Shannon Cook patterns, both of you get to pick out 2 Shannon Cook patterns. And so the winners are number 92, and that's Sunsparkle0101, who is Wanda. Congrats, Wanda. And then number 47, who is Knitty Turtle, and that's Trish, and they're both from Canada, I believe. Either way, they get to choose 2 of Shannon Cook's patterns. So get in touch with me, ladies. Go take a look at her things, and we'll get you in touch with her, and she's going to gift each of you 2 patterns. And then the last prize goes out to entry number 41, who is Shishi62, and that's Sheila. Congrats, Sheila. And you have won one of my bags. So I'm going to send you this bag. So send me your address and I will get that in the mail. Again, I'm hoping to get that in the mail before Tuesday. So if you can send me your address right away, yay! Congratulations. Thanks to everyone who participated in that knit along. I really appreciate it. I think I had 145 entries overall at the very end, which was really great. And it's full of things that I want to knit. There's some mittens in there that I'd never seen. There's some shawls, there's some sweaters, there's some toques. So if you're looking for inspiration, some Canadian inspiration, go check out that thread in my group, because I believe that you will be inspired. And then I just quickly wanted to show you some of the bags that are left in my shop from my last update. Actually, my last 2 updates. So I have 3 of my drawstring sock bags. So we've got this really bright flowery one. And that has, well, you can see the inside because it pokes out there. And then we've got this lamb bag, and this liner one says stitch, stitch, stitch. And then this same one that I just gave away to Sheila, I have a duplicate of that one. So there's those 3 sock bags. And then I have one more zippered bag. I have, and these are big bags, so that in comparison to the sock bag, I call these sweater size. And then I have 2 drawstring backpacks left. If you'd like to see what those look like, go watch Candy's Little Dance in her latest episode. So those are big too. They're as big as the these big bags, except that they have backpack strings. I love these bags. I really love them. I need to make myself one. So there's this one, and then I have one other one left, and that's this one. So yeah, and you can find those on my Etsy shop at soxcetera.etsy.com if you're interested. That is episode 26. It's a wrap, guys. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for being here every time. And don't forget to go post your fuck it, it's fine work. Be on the lookout. I think Sarah and I will be announcing another bag swap soon, because we had so much fun with the last one. So if you didn't get in on the bag swap last time and you're interested, or if you did get in on it and you're interested, let us know. And we'll be announcing that soon. But yeah, that's all for now. That's all for this week. I hope you guys have a really spectacular week, and big love and squishy hugs.
Okay, you are not a bear, because if you are, you should be asleep.
So, to recap, I'm Shannon Fisher on Instagram. Can't get this right, Sloane. No. You're so cheeky. No. There's too much to say. I feel overwhelmed. What did you say? I can't hear you. Speak up. I'm sorry, I still can't hear you. Bye. You got something in your face. Sloane. It's over. We did it. I didn't think we were gonna make it.